So today we are going to see about the surfactant. Surfactants, we are mainly focusing on the alveoli. Okay, so consider this as a alveoli. Inner lining of the alveoli there will be a fluid layer. Okay, there will be fluid covering inside the inner lining of the alveoli. So whenever the air comes in contact with the alveoli to ventilate the lungs, so there will be a contact between the fluid layer and the air. So there will be a contact between the air and the water layer. So whenever there is a contact between the two medium, there will be create a reaction force, right? Okay, there will be created tension in the fluid layer. Tension means force. So there will be a tension created all over the fluid layer. We call it as surface tension. Okay, this surface tension will cause the alveoli to collapse. Okay, this alveoli will get collapse if there is surface tension. So for this, what our body has adapted to overcome the situation is, in the alveoli, epithelial cells means uh, there will be cells in the lining of the alveoli, right here, full covered with the cells. Okay, so there is a cell called type 2 alveolar epithelial cells. It will present like this: type 2 alveolar epithelial cells. It produces a substance called surfactant in the fluid layer of the inner lining of the lungs. So it produces surfactants all over the layer. So what the purpose of surfactants is to reduce the surface tension. We see, no, when the air comes, there is a created tension between the air and the water molecules. Okay, so this surfactants will reduce the surface tension in the fluid. So when the air comes, there is no problem now, because the tension in the water molecules was reduced. So the surface tension was reduced. So the lung alveoli now has reduced the ability to collapse. Okay, so this is working of the surfactants. So here you seeing the surfactants. The definition: surfactant is a surface acting material which helps lowering the surface tension of the fluid. So mainly secreted by the type 2 alveolar epithelial cells. The surfactants, it's mainly contains phospholipids, proteins, and ions. Okay, so functions, and see the functions, it reduces prevent the collapsing tendency of the lungs, and it helps to stabilization of the alveoli, and necessary to withstand the collapsing insect, the same that we see above. So another important property: when the fetus, after birth, when it attempts to take the first breath, the lungs repeatedly tends to collapse. Okay, so presence of surfactants in the alveoli reduce the collapsing tendency of the lungs. So surfactants will secrete at the third month of the gestation period during the fetus. So another important function, it acts as a defense mechanism also in the lungs. So what are the pathological condition when there is a deficiency of the surfactants during a fetus, during when it takes the first breath? When there is a deficiency of surfactants, the lungs get collapse, and it causes respiratory distress and leads to death of the fetus. um, in adult, when there is a deficiency of the surfactants, it leads to adult respiratory distress syndrome, which can also lead to, when there is a deficiency of the surfactants, which can increase the bacteria and viral infections.